Good time of the day for you, all my chess friends. This is Grandmaster Alex Yermolinsky, doing the game of the day coverage from the last round of the Tal Memorial. Um, just concluded in Moscow. Well, Moscow regained its status of a chess capital of the world. They got their World Championship match. First time since 1985, and now the Tal Memorial, the premier tournament of the year. Oh, not a whole lot of competition in that department, but a little bit later I'll talk about it. Let's first talk about the games in the last round. Starting with Nakamura Radjabov, the disappointing game. I understand that Hikaru didn't have much to play for, and he was upset with that bad loss he had against Grishuk in the previous round. So he played the Ras Salima, and of course Radjabov is well prepared, as expected. Actually, it seemed to me that Black had the better of the opening, and I thought that Radjabov should push for a win, but it never happened. Well, once again, I'll leave it for later parts of the broadcast to talk about the effort and the effort versus objectivity on the position, but that's for some other time. Anyway, it's a draw. Radjabov finishes with +1, good for share of second place. Another game, Tomaszewski had white against Grishuk. So Grishuk, on the strength of his win over Nakamura, got back to 50%, and he really tried his hardest. And he played the King's Indian again. I believe again he got a difficult position out of the opening, but he kept it and was low on time, ridiculously low on time, even by his standards. But Tomaszewski is totally off form in this tournament, and never regained his composure, not even after winning against Marezevich and surviving against Carlsen. His play is just a shadow of what he should have been. So he mistimed his knight maneuver and blundered into this move d5, I believe. If you play the game over, suddenly Grishuk plays d5, and you can take the pawn, and Black just repairs his position. Then in mutual time trouble, Tomaszewski just managed to survive and not to get mated, but the endgame had to be lost for him. If Grishuk played the correct move on move 40, first coming down with the rook to the second, displacing the white bishop, and then back to the fifth, then white would not have had the saving resource b3. But as it often happens, you play 15 perfect games in time trouble, and the 16th one is just bad enough to throw it all away. Disappointing for Grishuk, he was very close to finish with +1. No, time management. Similar thing happened to Kramnik today. He played Marezevich. Both players have all reasons in the world to be unhappy. 2 in a row losses for Kramnik, and Marezevich had lost 3 in a row. Now they play each other in the game that just a few days ago would have been built as the decisive game of the tournament. Now they play for pride, maybe for a little bit of something. Certainly not where they wanted to be, and they could have been. But they played a good game nonetheless. It was a sideline of the Botvinnik, and Kramnik is always very well prepared, and he knew what to do and obtained some advantage, pushed pretty hard in the end game. But Marezevich defended well, once again reminding all of us that he can do anything on the chessboard, everything he can do, but on a good day. Well, problem with Marezevich that there are too many bad days that he's having practically in every tournament. So he defended, and Kramnik saw no way through, and he had to exchange the rooks, and in a minor piece endgame seemed that Marezevich was very close to a draw. But he made a mistake, I believe, in the second time trouble, and Kramnik could have just taken that pawn on f5, as Joel Benjamin pointed out, and then 2 against 1, and the black a pawn is running down the board. But with proper play, white can create his own threats with his pawns f and h, and his threats are stronger because he's also attacking the opponent's king for checkmates. Probably would be winning for white, and Kramnik missed that one. Well, Kramnik missing things in the endgame. What else could go wrong? I guess time trouble is to blame, but something that Vladimir certainly needs to address. in future tournaments before he comes out there in the for London Candidates tournament to give it his best shot. Well, that brings us, so both players finished at 50%. That brings us to the game that decided the outcome of the tournament, Aronian Caruana. The young Fabiano was leading the tournament coming to the last round, and the first time in his young career, he's in a situation when he has a lot to protect. And it's a new situation, you need experience to do this right. He did not. I would question first his choice of the opening. This is where you need a backup plan. Grunfeld just doesn't work. You need to put a pawn in the center and maintain it there. In the Grunfeld, it doesn't happen. Just like Grishuk. Look at his match against Gelfand a year ago. Game 6. All he needs to do is to make a draw and they go to the tiebreak. Well, since Grishuk beat both Aronian and Kramnik on tiebreak, he would have been a favorite against Gelfand, I assume. Things would have been different. A different world championship match, maybe. Maybe the same champion, but Anand would have to play differently. Anyway, but once again, the Grunfeld, no pawns in the center, space advantage for the opponent. Well, spending time. Well, it's okay to play the Grunfeld, but you have to believe in what you're doing. You can't look back. When you look back on your tournament situation, then it's the wrong opening to play. Even Kasparov recalls that his coaches advised him not to play the Grunfeld in the first 2 matches against Karpov. They felt it was not a proper opening for a world championship match. Anyway, not to blame the opening completely, but Fabiano spent a lot of time in the set there passively. But Aronian played very well, of course. And then finally, when it was out of time, he kind of lashed out, Fabiano did, with the wild counterplay attempt, and it was not gonna work. We thought that Aronian had a forced win with checkmate, but the way he did was also okay. Won convincingly. Good for Aronian, he salvaged whatever was left of the tournament to salvage, and he finishes 50%. Well, Fabiano, well, so close. But a good result for him, +1, together with Rajabov, sharing second and third. No, that brings us to the last game, Luke McShane versus Magnus Carlsen. Let's see, e4. e5. Look at this. No matter the tournament situation, Carlsen will play his chess. No peers, no wild Sicilians, no modern defense. He plays what he believes in. And here it comes. When a player, Boris Gelfand, recent example, overreacts to questions like why did you play like this? Said, I'm not here to entertain you. I play what's right. I play objective moves. Yeah, right. But how many objective moves you played, Mr. Gelfand? 22? Magnus Carlsen would play way more, like he did against Tomaszewski. Maybe he didn't show, looking back to that game they played yesterday, maybe he didn't show the deep opening preparation that Kasparov required from him. Okay, they broke their collaboration, fine. But maybe he didn't have big advantage, but he pushed and he took some risks and he tried until very end. He didn't succeed. He's not going to win every game. But this is how it is. He gives the maximum effort. I'm not asking every player to become a Morozevich. Well, it's not going to work. It's not even working for Morozevich himself. But the effort, it has to be there. And we know that Magnus is going to make it. But in the meantime, he's not going to be not true to himself. He would still play what he believes in. And that's very important. Now, here they go. I'll head it out, I assume, to Breyer. Come on, Luke McShane. I mean, why do you always have to get the same position against the Sicilian, against the Roy Lopez? Well, White can do more than just have equal space in the center and set up for maneuvering game. I mean, I understand that, well, You're not a professional player and all that, but it doesn't take that much to prepare for the Briar. And you can play that and maybe half an hour of preparation before the game. Look at some games. You can't possibly get a worse position, worse than what you get in there. I'm disappointed with this. Well, besides, this is exactly what Carlsen expected, I bet. Now, all standard issue, knight c3. Here, yeah, well, the most common move here is knight c5, played by former women world champion Xie Zhong of China. Yeah, but what Carlsen did is the same, or close to it. He plays that. Now white's preparing his f4. That's why this moves. And here in this position after c5, McShane played, I believe, is a good move. He played knight h4. Maybe knight d2 would have been the same. But there was this possibility that Magnus would play g5. I'm not sure if g5 is a good move. What's good about knight h4 that it's practically rules out g5, because then the white knight can come to f5. In the meantime, after the game continuation, knight e6. Oh, there is another thing. There was no knight g6 to worry about. After knight e6, white should have just played f4. There's no other plan in this position. What was Luke afraid of? He gets to this, he cannot possibly be concerned with g5. I, in my sorry state at 4 o'clock in the morning, was looking at rook g4, which is actually quite a playable move. Loads of compensation for that exchange. But there is not even need to do this. You can play knight f5, black cannot take. He gets mated. How? Well, not the standard queen g7 way. No. Knight h6. Now forget it. Of course Magnus would not have played g5. Well, question, what he would do then? I guess after this, some bishop d6, bishop e5. No, it's an equal position. Magnus would play it for a long time, but it's fairly easy to play for white, and a player of McShane's level shouldn't have much problems here, holding his own. And then if Magnus pushes too hard, maybe some opportunity would come by. So that was certainly was the right way to go. Instead, started moving this knight around. What's that for? Also, the black knight comes to d4. Here is the first little alarm bell for white. If he takes, no matter what, it doesn't matter. The knight cannot get to can get to a lot of squares. f5, d5, c4, but the knight's not going to be stable on any of the squares. It's going to be pushed back. That's what the bishops are good for. You don't have to have a wide open position and wind tunnel kind of diagonals to prove the superiority of two bishops. From classical games of Steinitz and Tarrasch, we know that the bishops very well support the advance of your pawns. Push that knight back and deprive the knight of any good squares, outposts. So that's clearly better for black, and Magnus is the right guy to handle this, by the way. So not that. f4, finally. Yeah, but the situation is different. Now black doesn't have to take. He will keep his pawn on f5, although it's isolated, but he's fine. After a long thing, McShane played this. And c3. No, about c3 here. Of course the d3 pawn now is weak, but he was just trying to, I guess, temporarily push the knight back. One thing that white can do after this is to play c4. And well, but then the black knight can always come back to d4, and it doesn't really matter. I don't know if that would improve the situation a lot for white. Well, he has a little bit more room here on the queen side, but he's still the one defending. Will he be able to defend or not? We don't know. Open question. Maybe that. I'm not sure I'm playing the right moves anyway for both players. It's just a guess. No, c4 seemed reasonable. But here, after long think, and then he plays queen e1. I understand the idea. Well, it's all part of the game plan. So McShane came to this tournament and he figures, okay, I'm not gonna challenge these guys in the opening theory, and they're all great players, but I will play my style. I will keep the game going with tactical chances and all that. It's all nice. Well, one thing is missing there. You shouldn't be 50 minutes behind on the clock when you do this. If you're a player of this style, or you adapt this style for a particular event, then you have to play quicker. Because you'll see later in the game, when the opportunity comes by, and it may come, you have to be there with enough energy left and enough time on the clock to take advantage of that. It wasn't really worth all this time he spent to come up with this concept. Yeah, indeed, if takes, and comes this. Funny, right? If it takes on e4, knight g5. Pretty. Granted. Well, in case of queen b5, the same move comes, knight g5. Suddenly white is playing it big time. He's got queen h4 coming, he's got invasion on d7 coming, plays c4 when it needs be. Good stuff. Yeah, but come on, give me a break. Magnus was not gonna take this pawn on d3. In about 20 seconds he played a way better move, a5. Well, it's got his play going on the queen side, while white is spinning wheels. And I came rook d1, a4. Around here I think we all realized that Magnus already obtained enough advantage in the center and the queen side for him to win the game. Sooner or later, unless there is some kind of tactical surprise that McShane is able to come up with. White's position is too compromised. Well, again, let's return to this idea with c4. I was thinking of that. Suppose knight d4 and now knight d5. Well, same problem, c6. Now, I did try one of the few variations that I really looked during our broadcast, trying to make things work with bishop g5, trying to misplace the black queen and maybe give this knight f6 check in the right situation. But it loses to knight takes f3 and then over there. Here is the line that we looked at with Joel, and Joel mentioned here that there is knight c7. Oh, but there are so many ways black can win this game. I'm thinking now that my favorite should be this, planning that fork from f2. And 2 pawns down, maybe 3 pawns down with a3 falling as well. Totally resignable. No, of course it was not gonna work. So, well, white's position already is very suspect. Black has clear advantage. So McShane tries his active play. But here Magnus perked up and he saw for the first time the opportunity to do something concrete and play this move bishop b3. Fairly quickly McShane played rook e1 and he gave up the pawn on d3. I guess he figured that after rook d2, bishop h6 he would be in trouble anyway. But it's one thing... oh, excuse me. One thing to be in trouble, and another thing is to give a pawn. So here white can still defend. Keep the material equal. No, I didn't like it. Played rook e1. Now after queen takes d3, white's problem, major problem, that he's always tied up to that rook on f1. The black queen is very active. And when Luke tried his stuff over there with knight h6, Now he can't bring the other guy in, the other knight. It's the problem on f1. He did play queen h4, and still cannot take with the knight, had to take with the queen. Yeah, here Magnus probably should have taken that pawn. No, it's a second pawn. What can white possibly do here? It's probably not a whole lot. But he decided to play a safer move, and he went king g7. But actually after queen c1, which is the right move, white is still alive. He's in bad shape, but he's alive. And particularly since Magnus played this unfortunate move rook f4. A little bit too cheeky. He could have tried to consolidate his gains and just come back with the queen and play this position with the queen on e7. Certainly white has some chances left, but black is with the winning advantage in any endgame, or just needs to be careful not to blunder into anything. Rook f4, I think it's almost blunder. That's the opportunity that I'm talking about. And this situation is the move 34. McShane had a minute to go, and he played rook d1. Last call for something. Play your knight to g5. Well, in this situation, there's some problems here for black, because if he goes bishop c4, then of course he walks into rook d1 followed by rook d7 check. So that would be a bad idea. If bishop b3, controlling d1, then white can play this. Suddenly he has this knight takes h7 threat. He's in the game. Black's most practical solution is to play the endgame, like this. But it's the endgame with equal number of pawns and still some potential trouble brewing around the black king. Magnus could have had more, but McShane didn't play that. Yeah, this is the total waste, of course, but now finally the rooks are connected and the bishop can go back to c8. That's the end of the last worry that black may have had. So in a desperate situation, well, a check. We got 2 checks out of this, but it's time to resign. And Magnus Carlsen won yet another tournament. Not the most impressive tournament win on his resume, but he played good enough to take advantage of the other players' problems. Well, Aronian, who knows what happened to him? He didn't seem his usual self. Both Morozevich and Kramnik had a good tournament, only to have them have it thrown away. Well, anyway, another win for Magnus. Magnus has the ability to win when it counts in the last round. That's essentially important. Essentially important, and they proved it once again. Yeah, funny, of course, about Luke McShane. Well, he certainly didn't fall on his face, and winning 3 games against the people he beat in this tournament, Aronian, Morozevich, and Kramnik. Well, that's huge. But funny that the fate of the tournament was determined by which Luke McShane is gonna show up. Luke's tournament is just a bookends, a terrible start and bad finish, and very good games in the middle. Yeah. Alright, so this tournament is in the books, and now I wanna steal another 5 minutes of your time or so, talk about the situation in the chess world and the future events. Not too many good news. Well, we here on the Internet Chess Club, of course, are very much interested in the calendar of major events, because we schedule in our broadcasts, but a tournament in Romania, the King's Tournament, which was supposed to start at the end of the month, got cancelled, and rather late. And it was supposed to be the next big thing with Carlsen and Anand and Karyakin and Ivanchuk, Radzhabov. So that's not taking place. So the next one is Dortmund, but Dortmund is not the tournament the caliber of the Tal Memorial. So there are going to be some very good players there, of course, Kramnik and Leko Ponomaryov, but some German players. But still, it's not this big as the tournament we just had. Oh, so many events got cancelled. Where's your Linares and Das Hermanas and I guess the economic situation, and well, can we realistically hope that the Chinese government would pour money to support European players, top players? They're not gonna do this. They ran a couple of tournaments, not doing this anymore. They'll have tournaments for their own players. So that option is not there. You know what this reminds me of? If you're a student of chess history, there was really an abundance of chess events from the mid 1930s on. That's around the time when Alekhine lost the event and got it back. Top players, they played almost non-stop. Capablanca came back. He played many great events. The two Moscow tournaments, the Nottingham Super Tournament, if you wish, and culminated in the Avra tournament. That was it. So after the Avra tournament, of course, the war broke out, and that was the end of it. And look what happened then. FIDE came into force, and that pretty much monopolized chess from a marginally small organization. It became big, and for next decades, everything was revolving around the FIDE system of the World Championship. There were interzonal candidates, and there were few tournaments there of like the Petigorsky Cup in 1966, but wasn't really a whole lot. Are the chess players gonna come back to FIDE looking for a handout? Well, I'm not sure. Well, I come to think of that, it's not clear what FIDE is gonna do for them, because well, I'm not defending the FIDE people. I have no love lost between me and the apparatchiks, the nomenclatura, using the Russian words, the bureaucrats of FIDE. But I have to give FIDE credit. They ran their chess Olympiads and World Junior events and all that. Well, but they did quite okay with their stuff without having to support this quite a large group of top-notch chess professionals who are all looking for a paycheck. We have the old guys, what I call now Kasparov's sons, Anand and Kramnik and Gelfand, Ivanchuk, Shirov, whatever, Topalov. And they have the younger generation. They feel they deserve it. Nakamura, Caruana, others. There are too many mouths to feed, honestly. I don't know. Well, it's going to be pretty hard. There is no Garry Kasparov, there is no sugar daddy to bail you out with his another alphabet soup chess organization pouring money into chess, at least temporarily. I mean, we have the Association of Chess Professionals, founded by Jael Latier and now run by Sutovsky, but that's a joke. What have they done? Nothing. And they never will do. They never have a sniff of the kind of money that's required to run this stuff. I mean, there was this talk that maybe the Norwegians, because of Magnus Carlsen's position on top of the chess world, will organize some big tournament there. But well, they pour in their money to the Chess Olympiad, which probably cost, I don't know, $10 million. I'm only guessing, could be. You can run a lot of tournaments for $10 million, but you can understand the Norwegian government. Well, without this foundation, it is pointless to support a handful of chess professionals. Well, chess has to have this wide, solidly built basis for the chess to thrive for years ahead. So it's a tough call. I don't know. I hope I didn't sound too gloom and doom. Chess survived, it persevered through many things, but it would come at the expense of individuals. Just like the world wars, they they hit some chess players real hard. We all know Karl Schwechter dying and practically, well, just starving to death. And Rubinstein and others, Lasker, they hit them hard. Well, World War II, well, we know what it did to some others. Um, well, I know. So what's gonna happen to our heroes now? Well, I guess they'll survive. Carlsen can go full-time modeling. Giri can hit the gym. Nakamura can fall back on our Gotchberg tournaments, can win them one after another. We'll be there. We'll be there on the Internet Chess Club to cover the events. Well, let's just wait and see. With that, I would like to thank you all for sticking with us. This is Grandmaster Alex Yermolinsky. Until next time. Hi there, chess fans! With today's New in Chess trivia question, where during our Game of the Day coverages, you can win a 1-year subscription to the award-winning Dutch magazine New in Chess. All you have to do is to listen carefully to today's question and send your answer by email to us at trivia@chessclub.com. Please remember to also include your full name, ICC username, and postal address. And here is today's New in Chess Trivia main prize question.